Mediocre Disc Golf Podcast, an average podcast for the average disc golfer. As always, I'm Evan Amstutz, joined by the goose trainer who ruined Paul Macbeth's Las Vegas challenge, Dan Hesser. We're happy you could join us.
But
Dan, how are you doing today?
at least it wasn't the guy who was controlling the bush snail that caused AB to go in the sand trap. I mean, one of the two.
This is a very goose-related episode, so
Yeah,
hint,
yeah.
hint, hint, if the title hasn't already spoiled who our guest is.
Oh, well, how are you, man? How's your day going?
Oh, it's going pretty well. Just working on some form stuff, so practice rounds are very fun at the moment. Sometimes you get a hold of one and you're like, heck yeah. Sometimes you get a hold of one and you're like, that pedestrian's in trouble now. And sometimes you don't get a hold of one and you're like, that pedestrian's in trouble now. So out there
Yeah,
just
yeah.
ruining or almost ruining pedestrians' days while I work on my form and throw in a busy park. It's a good time.
Well, normally I just go to the field to work on my form, but
I
real life
alternate.
experiences with obstacles, it's fun.
Yeah, just adds a little flair. No, I normally
Yeah,
I'm doing field work, but then also getting out to the course to learn how to shape shots with
yeah,
the new form and getting some good distance out of it, but I don't know where it's going. So
yeah,
I've got about
yeah.
2 weeks to figure that out before throwdown.
So I have been working on rollers for no real reason, except
One of us.
except that I launched a roller in a field and it went over 500 feet. So I was like, I am now a roller guy. Let's go, baby! And haven't quite been able to replicate like in an actual um, like round yet.
Mhm.
I actually just lost a couple destroyers trying to. It was a really cool die disc that went into a patch of thorns. So I'll probably have to hit up one of our sponsors, Spikeiser Dies, to check out his die disc. Because man, I love all my discs. Better have some color and some personality to them. So
Yeah, go check that out on Instagram at shdies_DG. But I hope you can replace that. If you need a good roller disc, I picked one up. This is gonna sound so stupid, sponsor heavy, but I literally did pick this up from the disc shop. A Wild Honey, a Clash Wild Honey, and their steady plastic.
okay,
It it
I
is a
don't know what that is. Is it a fairway?
No, it is a 12-5 -2 2. And I think
Okay.
those numbers are wrong. 12 is about right. 5 is about right.
Flight numbers, forever accurate.
I'd say it's about a -8 in turn and about a -8 again in fade. Like it, I've not
Jesus.
been able to ever get this thing to hyzer. So it
Okay.
is the perfect distance roller. Like I just rip it flat and aim
Yeah,
left of my target, and
and
it
it
goes about
rolls.
150 feet down the fairway. It hits on that perfect roller angle almost every time. The first time I tried it, I was looking for a Shrike replacement, and when I ripped it like I would rip my Shrike for like a really distant shot, I threw a 550-foot roller, and I went, "Huh, not what I wanted this to do, but I can find a slot in my bag for it." And sure
That's
enough, that thing has
nasty,
been
dude.
money for me.
Nice, nice. Eagling 18 on at Four Palms, huh?
Not quite there yet.
Well,
It gives me the opportunity.
it's like a what, like 600 something foot hole. So,
Yeah.
but that's nasty, dude. Yeah, I'm not quite in the 5 bills range. I'm holding steady around the four. So,
Hmm.
well, we'll do something about it at some point in my life, I'm sure. But maybe maybe our guest can talk to us about how he's able to rip his forehands over 400.
This week's episode is brought to you by The Disc Shop. One of the best days for a disc golfer is New Disc Day. With different runs of discs, the best way to get exactly what you want is by seeing what you're buying. The Disc Shop in Middleburg, Florida has the largest selection in store in Jacksonville. Want the latest from Discmania? the Disc Shop has you covered. Looking for starter kits to introduce your friends? Head on down to the Disc Shop. If you prefer the convenience of online shopping, head over to thediscshop.com for all your disc golf needs. Listeners get 10% off when using the code MDGPOD at checkout online or by mentioning the podcast while in store. Located halfway between Trinity and Ronnie Van Zant, the Disc Shop is the spot.
All right, so this week we have on Aaron the Goose Gossage. How are you, man?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me on here.
Yeah, thanks for taking some time out. Are you practicing the Memorial right now?
Yeah, I just finished a practice round over at Fountain Hills, and we'll probably get some putting in a little later today. So, yep, getting ready for it.
Nice, nice. That's a big Discraft tournament, so I'm sure there is there any like added pressure because it's such a big Discraft tournament, or is it kind of just business as usual?
Yeah, I'm not feeling any extra pressure. It's Discraft tournament, so it's good for us to like play it. Yeah, really put in a little extra work. Make sure we know the course and everything. But I think more than anything, they just drop a bunch of the merchandise and things like that at the event. So it's just kind of like a marketing thing for them, beginning of the year, get Discraft going.
That's awesome. What do you think of the course? Is it true? I've heard so many stories about like when the fountain goes off that like the discs change their flight. Is that accurate?
I haven't specifically noticed that. I don't think it changes like too much. More than anything, it's been a little bit breezy the last couple of days, so it's been tough to keep the discs in bounds. I think I lost like 8 discs in the last couple of days.
Oh
Wow.
no.
Uh, but it's mainly because I was like trying to go for a few shots where I was like, I'm not sure if this is the right thing to go for or not. So I
Yeah.
tried it a few times and was like, okay, I'm definitely laying this one up now.
Practice round stuff. Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah.
Are you out there with Paul?
Actually, I don't think Paul's playing this event.
Okay,
I was getting a practice room with one of my buddies from Colorado, Nate Metzler. He's a cool guy.
cool.
And there's a bunch of Discraft guys, but I didn't meet up with them today.
Yeah, I think like AB's playing it. I don't know. I really don't know. I just know that AB's playing it and a few other guys, but um,
Yeah, AB and Hammis
oh
pretty
yeah,
much
that's
spend the
right.
off season here, so they play these courses quite a bit. Makes sense for them to play the Memorial. I'm kind of in that same boat where it's good ratings, and I play these courses
Yeah.
well, so
Mhm.
it's a good tournament for me to play.
Where have you been this off season?
Yeah, I've been here in Arizona,
Oh, have
so
you?
hanging with these guys. Yep.
Oh, sick, sick. I know you spent some time in Jacksonville as well.
Yeah, so we had like a Discraft meetup in Jacksonville, make our like Discraft announcement and everything. So that worked out pretty well. There's some decent courses there that were fun to practice, and the weather's just amazing. So all around, it's a cool experience.
What'd you think of Four Palms? That's the one that I think most locals play here. Pander to our local
Yeah,
audience.
yeah, it's a good local course. It's similar to something like Fountain Hills or Vista, where it's pretty casual with still some like good shots and things like that. Good place to practice. We went to the New World course a couple times too. I think that one's a little bit closer to like tour standards. Get some longer holes, some different challenging things. So overall, yeah, pretty decent courses and yeah, good practice.
Yeah, we got to see you throw a lumpy out there on some of the videos, so that was cool.
Yep,
So we always like to ask,
yep.
whenever we get a guest in here, can you kind of tell us about your journey in disc golf and getting started?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, my dad got me into it when I was a kid. I've been playing since I can remember, basically. He started playing when my sister was born, which is 2 years before me. So he's been into it for quite a while. And then he'd just take us out to the course whenever he had like free time. So yeah, I've kind of yeah, just always been playing. Then in high school, I took a little bit of a break. I was playing a lot of tennis, so I kind of focused on that kind of stuff. And then I really got back into disc golf in college. A buddy of mine hit me up and was like, "Hey, do you want to start a collegiate team at Carter Mesa University?" So that's what really got me like the drive and passion to start playing again, doing some training, like actually like playing well. So and then when I graduated college in I think 2019, I didn't have any responsibilities. I was playing really good disc golf, so everyone's like, "Hey, you better try, going out and touring." So now I'm on my third year on tour, and yeah, this isn't what I expected to be doing with my life, but I love it. So it works out good.
What did you go to college for?
I've got a degree in computer science.
Oh, hey,
Oh,
that's
cool.
what I studied.
Yeah, it was interesting. I always liked problem solving, stuff like that. But honestly, I haven't touched it since college, so I'd have to go back and get a refresh on everything if I were to go back and try to find a job right now.
I've always found that the engineering mindset kind of helps break down courses, especially when you're playing them blind and you can kind of go off the distance and yeah, break down the hole.
Yeah, definitely.
So you said you started playing a little bit more competitive through the collegiate side of things. Um, how was that transitioning to more of a casual and to being more competitive and eventually going on tour and stuff like that? I mean, how was that transition?
Yeah, it was interesting. I was never like, I don't know, even when I was playing as a kid, I was always taking it very seriously. So I was playing, like, I started in juniors and then worked my way up, played a lot of tournaments in advanced, and then
Oh, okay.
finally turned pro in like 2017, something like that. So I always tried like really hard, but it wasn't until like actually college where I started putting in a lot of like practice. I'd go out, do some practice putts, stuff like that. And if you've never played the collegiate style disc golf, it's actually really fun. It takes this like individual sport and adds a team aspect to it. So you get to like build off your partner's shots. There's a little added pressure of like, hey, if I mess this up, I'm letting down more than just myself. So the whole like situation with it, it was actually a really cool experience for me, and I wish that that aspect was actually like more. If there were ways of making that happen in the professional side of things, just because it is such a different dynamic. But
Maybe more like an all stars type event.
yeah, or even just like it'd be cool if we had like a pro tour like level event that was a doubles event where
Oh yeah,
just
for
bring your
sure. Like
partner and play a bunch of different formats, best shot, worst shots, best score, alternate shot, all that kind of stuff. So I just think that whole aspect of it, like working off your partner and being a good team, is really interesting and something kind of missing at the moment. The other big thing for the between the casual and like the competitive stuff is like once I got on tour, just like playing every day, practicing, like understanding what I need to do to get better, really is what drove my game to the next level. So I think almost anyone that just puts that kind of like time and devotion into it will get substantially better at the game. So I don't know if you want to like take your game to the next level. It's all about like figuring out what you need to practice. So for me, especially, it's like if I can put in an hour, 2 hours putting every day, it just makes such a difference in my disc golf game.
where do you practice? Like what range is your do you go like 20 foots for like 100 putts and then back it up or like how do you what's your routine like?
Yeah, I kind of mix it up. I think the biggest thing is that I try not to do more than like 30 minutes in a row before taking a break. I find that my mind gets a little bit mentally drained, and I need to actually have like a breather, a break to like relax, think about something else for a while, so that when I get back into it, I'm actually having good, solid practice and not
Hmm.
just like going through the motions and building bad habits.
Yeah, 100%.
Um, yeah, so I do a bunch of different things. I think my biggest one lately is I think my distance that I'm making up the most strokes is kind of around 30 feet.
Yeah.
So I make a lot of putts from that distance. I think that that is a really crucial range. That's like if you can make all your 30 footers, you're gaining a lot of strokes. I have a lot of putts from that distance, and I struggle with them a little bit. So I've been practicing that quite a bit. And then I try to move back. A lot of times I like make a putt, move back a step, try to make another putt, and that just helps me build this like muscle memory of like what it takes to just like putt a little bit farther each time,
Hmm.
and it really grows my range of how far I can putt as well. It's like a muscle, like anything else. So you really do need to train it. You need to build that muscle memory of what your hand, what the spin needs to do to get the disc to the basket, and that's what actually will get you making longer and longer putts.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think my range that I always practice from is like 32 feet, 33 feet, somewhere right in there. And I'm similar. Like I'll make a putt and then I'll like just step off that because you have a mark or something. I'll just step off the mark, kind of back up a little bit, and then step back into it because I feel like if I'm just standing there, I'll have that same thing where you're just firing and just kind of not concentrating as much and building those bad habits like you talked about. So I relate with that.
How was putting at LVC with all the wind and heard it was pretty cold? Didn't look like a ton of fun.
Yeah, the conditions were pretty tough there. I would say the first two rounds I putt really well. I was super happy with how I was putting, made some crucial 25, 30-foot putts in the wind. I was very happy with. Um, the second round, I had kind of a mental lapse and I missed a few easy ones that I should have had. And then into the third round, I had a couple of those as well. But overall, I've been putting in a lot of work and I've been confident, stepping up to putts and knowing that I can make them. The wind, more than anything, it's kind of like knowing what I don't know. It's knowing the angles, actually putting in the wind quite a bit, and then knowing what I'm actually capable of as well. I laid up a lot of putts that I was running in the past, so I just I can understand when it's a putt that I'm making a decent chunk enough enough of the time that I can justify running the putt. So a lot of
Well,
risk reward there, and yeah, I didn't manage it as well as I could have, but overall my putting was pretty solid.
Wild Horse definitely will do that to you. Like just like right behind the basket, roll away central, like almost on every hole. It's pretty crazy. I've played that course a couple of times and it's fun.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest difference between this year and last year. Last year I missed cash, and this year I took 20th place, and it was
Hmm.
just kind of like seeing some of those greens and being like, this is a situation where I can't afford to miss a putt, so
Yeah.
I need to make it or lay it up. And a lot of times I was laying it up just because the percentages weren't there to make it. And then I made a lot of clutch putts too, where I was like, my only choice here is to make this. I
Yeah.
cannot miss it.
Yeah.
So that definitely saved me a lot of strokes.
How do you
How was
approach
it
those
playing? Go
situations?
ahead.
How do you approach those situations like knowing I gotta go for this one, gotta lay this one up? Is that more of checking the scoreboard, or is that just something that you've built up over the years of touring?
Yeah, so sometimes it's the scoreboard. I wasn't ever in enough contention in this tournament for that to really matter. I was by the time the cut line came around, I was well within the cut, so I didn't need to worry about that. And I was never quite in contention to take a top 10 or anything like that. So overall, it was more of just like playing my actual percentages. And kind of a lot of it depends on which wind I have. So, if I have the tailwind putt, I'm like, hey, I can afford to miss this. If I miss this, it's going to drop, land pretty close to the basket. And some of like the right to left winds, I was like, if I float this a little bit, I could be farther away from the basket than when I started. So it just kind of depends on those thoughts of like, what's the disc going to do if I miss, and then how likely am I to actually hit the basket, even if I do miss the putt, a few things like that. And then finally, like when it actually just comes down to it, you got to decide. You're going to either 100% lay up the putt or 100% run it, and kind of like nowhere in between. You
Yeah,
gotta
fully
commit to
commit.
one or the other.
How was it playing two courses instead of three or this year instead of last?
Yeah, so I'm a huge fan of that. Playing the three courses is just such a grind to get enough practice in. I remember that was one of my issues last year is that I practiced the Innova course quite a bit, but the other two courses not as much, and I just got punished on the other two and didn't end up making the cut because of it. So this year, only having the two courses to practice helped me really get dialed in on both courses. So definitely a big fan of that. The one thing I will say was I think that Innova's a pretty good course. I'll give it that. I think Millennium is pretty mediocre course overall. It's not very interesting. And I would have loved to see them, take some time, rework some of these holes. They have this enormous property. We're only playing two courses this year, so I'd have loved them to incorporate maybe that third course and make some fun, interesting holes. In my opinion, I love playing par fours. I love playing par fives. And this course, just for how much length it has, just lacks both of those. And it just seems a little bit lazy to have, you know, 80% par threes on a course when we're playing on a ball golf course. I mean, A lot of them have good greens or good tee shots, things like that. But if you can incorporate, a good tee shot with a good green, make it 700 feet, you got a solid par four. Same, and there's only one par five on the entire property, and it just seems a shame for having a ball golf course with all this land. So I would love to see them take that third course, kind of incorporate it into the other two, and then just make two like gold level 18 hole courses. And I'm not just saying that like it needs to be longer. I just would love to have that golf aspect of, hey, we're playing par fours and fives. Where are we gonna go for our big shots? Where are we gonna lay up? It just adds so much more strategy to the game. I think it makes it more interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that. I feel like the course was kind of, I don't say hyzer heavy, but it felt like it was just, there wasn't a lot of complexity in some of those shots. I mean, unless obviously the wind, and then there's a huge amount, but yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
How do professionals approach the wind, like especially in a tournament like that, or DDO, where it's gonna be windy, and you as a forehand player are gonna be torquing on some pretty overstable discs to begin with. Like for us, and sometimes you can just go to your more overstable. I'm sure for you, you're not always having a more overstable option.
Yeah, honestly, I've got a whole bunch of really overstable discs right now, so I almost have something that is just more overstable than I can deal with. That's one of the really nice things about Discraft itself is like the Nuke OS is a really far flying disc that is just crazy overstable. So when I'm going into courses like that, I'm thinking to myself, what is the miss I can make? What's the miss I can't make? And then I'm just trying to throw a shot that won't ever miss on that one side. And it probably will miss because it's super windy and I'm not exactly predicting everything correctly, but I'm making that miss on the correct side of the basket. And then the other big thing is the putting. I find that usually my drives are pretty solid in the wind because I have the ability to throw a hyzer on both sides with a very stable disc. But my putting, I have a push putt, which is a lot better without wind than it is with wind. So I end up spending a lot of time laying up my putts. But for me, that's actually pretty good because in the wind, a lot of those tough top guys are making 60, 70 foot putts. But in the wind, it's cutting those ranges down, and I have no problem laying up those putts because I know what I'm capable of, what my percentages are. So I try to just stick with making my in the circle putts, running my long ones when I have a good wind, and then just play nice, safe, conservative tee shots.
That's very interesting, breaking down the whole like picking a disc that you won't make that mistake. I think it's a mistake that a lot of amateurs make, is they look at a hole and say, this is what I normally throw here. I'm just going to disc up or change the stability a little bit, but they don't consider that the wind might do something different with the disc and bring that bad miss into play.
Yeah, definitely. I will say that at the level of wind that we had for a couple of the rounds there this last weekend, and at DDO for that matter, the wind got to a level where you had to like hope not to get unlucky. Just with that much wind, it's so difficult to get the disc to land at the right angles, do all the things that you need it to just not get these weird breaks that you're not expecting. And so there's kind of a knack for just like understanding what, I don't know, like throwing spike hyzers isn't the best in that kind of wind just because the disc will a lot of times pop up on edge and then you can get some crazy weird rollaways. So just like keeping it flat and trying to really keep those angles out of the wind is very important in that situation.
Yeah.
Did the temperature affect it at all? Like as far as the because like it snowed the day before, which is just absurd. Like I've never seen Vegas in snow at all. Like that was nuts. But did the temperature affect? Because I know like playing in different temperatures, your hands get cold, and then you start gripping the disc a little bit. But
Yeah, it didn't affect me too much. I'm from Colorado, so I'm used to playing in those conditions quite a bit. One of the things I did is I brought my mittens each day. So made sure to keep my hand warm. As soon as my hand gets cold, my game goes way downhill. So I just made sure to stay prepared, wear plenty of warm clothes, take them off if I needed to. But it actually led to a different situation, which I wasn't expecting, and then my hand kept getting sweaty. So on every hole, like I had it in the mitten to keep it warm, and it'd be all sweaty when I took it out. So I'd have to use a chalk bag to dry it off. So it's just kind of a constant process of getting the right grip plus keeping everything warm. So it definitely adds an element there, but I think it didn't affect me too much just because I was prepared for it. I did wear the right clothes, and it wasn't nearly as big of an issue for me as a lot of other players.
Man, I feel that. That's so because my partner's a travel nurse, so we're up here in Oregon right now, and it's my first time playing in this type of like crazy cold. And you know,
Mm-hmm.
you have gloves on your hands, and you take them off, and your hands all sweaty, and you're like it's just this constant back and forth of trying to get a good grip on a disc. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's definitely tough. Everyone's got like their own way of doing it. I've got like a chalk bag that really helps me get some good grip. And then I don't know, it's different too compared to the humidity. Sometimes it'll be really hot and humid, and then it's a completely different kind of feel for the grip than like the dry. I don't know. So everything's different. You just kind of have to like figure it out as you go to each of these events, each of these rounds.
Well, that wraps up part 1 of our interview with Aaron Gossage. You can find Aaron on Instagram at Aaron_Gossage Disc Golf, Dan at D Hesser, and me at Evan Amstutz DG. Remember to follow the pod on Instagram at Mediocre Disc Golf Pod and on Twitter at Mediocre DG Pod. If you want to support us, buy our shirts on mythicdiscgolf.com and listen to us every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern. If you enjoyed the show, leave us 5 stars in a review, and if you didn't, still give us 5 stars and tell us why. We know we aren't perfect because we are mediocre. Have a good night.